Hi friends. I'm going to go out of chronological order again and give you my most recent journal. I like to do that now and then. And this one is one of the rare ones where the title came before the journal. I always enjoy those because even though I have the title, I still don't know what's going to come out. So this one is from 7/14. The first one of that day, the Mayan day, was Cimi, transformer or death. And there's a link in here to someone interviewing Dr. Halley, Dimitri Halley. And it's good. It's a good one. I hope you'll click over to the journal to get the live link. Okay. There is so much hard-won wisdom in the Dimitri Halley interview I'm linking you to here. I do hope you will visit, and I know you will enjoy it. As always, open the written journal for the live link. This guy inspires me, always, it seems. So when I listen to him, I find myself journaling to explore what arises within. So much change has been going on lately that I find it hard at times to keep up. Actually, it's been a bit brutal energetically. I guess I'm actually glad things aren't moving any faster than they are. And once upon a time, I really knew I would never say such a thing. Goes to show you we don't really know anything. I have been really gung-ho for the spirituality, for lack of a better word, well, for awakening. Now first, why should one want to or even embrace being corrected? Sounds kind of strange, huh? Well, that's because we're in mind, so let's drop down into heart so we can take this journal journey. Things go better that way. What I share is clearer to those who are in heart. It's not a left brain thing. Let's also remember, even if just for this journey time, that we are divine. It's our true nature. Let's keep identifying even stubbornly with higher self, with the very highest of which we can conceive. Now, we'll turn out to be far beyond that even, but it's a start and a practical one, available to all. So, embrace your divine nature, your divine identity, friends. It's who you truly are. Now, so, as that self, why embrace being corrected? If you'll just be with that for a moment, then it won't take long. You'll realize that higher self needs no correction. That becomes obvious if we are the divine at our core. It's like asking Source or God to improve. Makes no sense. So clearly then, it is not higher self being corrected at any time. Well, that makes sense. So then who or what is being corrected? I'm going to pause here just a moment. Since I've seen this video and you haven't, it is on facing the shadow to liberate from the illusion. And so it's this shadow work that gets us into the challenging feelings and our responses to them. So that's what this thing is based on. Okay, now, where was I? Okay, so who or what is being corrected? As we go through life and encounter various moments of correction, whether coming from others or perceived within, self to self, who or what is being corrected? Who or what within us could stand some improvement, would even desire that? Could it be our soul? Could it be our ego? How about the mind? It's not readily plain, is it? A number of possibilities arise. Let's look at mind first. Does mind want to be corrected? Or does it always want to be right and hate being corrected? Now, for me, this highlights a distinction between mind in its pure, unprogrammed state and the ego, which doesn't care for correction. It's fairly standard, then, that the ego will resist correction of all kinds initially. That's the aspect of our being that truly wants to be the best, to shine, to be always right. So, let's set that one aside. It seems pointless to talk about an ego welcoming correction. But what of mind? In its untainted state, above and beyond all the negative programming it has experienced, the mind loves correction. Why is that, do you think? Are you in tune with your mind? The mind is loyal to and ever seeks out truth. So it wants to know if its course somehow needs correcting to better approach that. It wants to make that correction. Do you agree? Well, what of the soul then? I view this one as an aspect of being that is so in love with Source that it almost pants after that. I can really identify with the mystic work of St. John of the Cross on the Beloved. Ancient though it may be, it is eternal in what it shares. Mystical union with the divine. This soul, or inner being, didn't expect this, is in process of merging with higher self, or with the divine. I see it as an aspect of being which has gone out from our center to explore and experience whatever is available. It was perhaps for purposes of growth and expansion, but not in ways mind can identify with or understand. For in a way, it was also like the sun, simply shining its rays of light, a thoughtless, purposeless sort of activity, being just for the sake of being, something well beyond the mind's ken. Soul works with or through mind and body. Well, that's how I'm viewing it at this time anyway. And I take other perspectives elsewhere, so don't get too stuck on anything I present. Having a flexible perspective on life is a really unlimiting way to live, and I highly recommend it. Besides, it helps a lot in relationships, better enabling one to take the other's view and understand and experience on a deeper level. Well, what we've got so far can be viewed as a ladder, or preferably a spiral. Starting with our true nature, which is wholly divine, we manifest what could be called a higher self. This one is one with the divine, with Source. Higher self then projects out the soul, which will go forth into one lifetime. This is the wanderer going out adventuring to the joy of higher self, of Source. The soul to take incarnation requires both body and mind, so those are the next rung or ring of the spiral being projected. They take their birth in this life with the soul always close by, actually containing them. You are not in your body. It is in you. You are so far beyond being able to be contained in such a vessel that it's humorous. So you project a ray of light as an aspect of your being to incarnate there. Some of you might object to all this objectifying of these aspects or elements of being, knowing they're really all one. And I understand that. I'm not saying that they are actually separate, but rather than taking a look from, okay, they're not separate, but I'm actually taking a look from one angle of view on the light that you are. Now, one comment on the higher self. As we awaken, this is the identity we step into. It is whole and complete, right where we are, awakened or not. It's just a matter of awakening from our somnambulance into being fully present as that. Capital P and capital T. Actually, two comments then. Or I also want to say that I don't know if we have only one higher self who is over all incarnations, all embodiments, or whether each lifetime merits a fractal duplicate of that higher self. Not a clone, not a copy. But let us stick to just now here and this lifetime. So, moving forward, let's move back to welcoming correction. Both and, remember, not either or. Correction. As children, we had no choice in this. Whether in school or at home, we were taught to be obedient, to behave in accepted ways. I suggest that along the way, we all experience some trauma during that training. It's hard to avoid. We're such free spirits when we're born. Those of you who are parents are already aware of this. The parents learn as much as the children. So, it may be that if this trauma from childhood has not yet been resolved within us, we carry the scars of it forward. Heck, we may even be dealing with such scars that were accumulated over many lifetimes. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. There's a certain amount of facing the shadow that is done by every awakened one along the way into that awakening. Those who try to avoid this are only fooling themselves if they think they're awake. These are what I've called the enlightened egos walking among us, and there are quite a few out there lecturing and writing their books. Now, overall, my take on it is that everybody has something to teach you, and you have something valuable for everyone else too. So I am not rejecting the pseudo-illumined ones outright. Not at all. No matter what errors we have made or may be making now, we always retain the divine seed. These are parts we're playing. Besides, most of us don't yet have the full illumination that shows us clearly why we're here and precisely why things are as they are. I have truly found it best to not judge, to just leave those things alone. The understanding will come when it does, and it will be precisely the right time, different for each of us. Meanwhile, though, I am living life as self and now here in heart, finding that it by itself is enough and more than enough. Self with the capital S and now here in heart. Again, back to welcoming correction and stay in heart with me, for the ego doesn't much like this. So if you're identifying with that, you may reject this outright. When you find yourself doing any sort of knee-jerk rejection or reaction, and I don't care who or what is being rejected, that is likely ego or maybe mind at work. Best to slow down and just watch that. At heart, my friends, are we not the lovers of truth, divine truth? I think we are. That being the case, the inner or higher part of us wants any correction it gets that brings it closer to truth and to reunion. The higher self is truth. So the object then becomes discernment at some point. Before we accept or reject this or that, it is well to both be in heart and take our discernment from there. It's not a mind thing, not in my work. Now that which brings this correction could be an ant. It could literally be anything. So don't let mind draw its expectations as the pictures you see. Just stay within. Be as much the empty cup as you can for best results. I cried once when I had set aside a centipede one night, planning to take it out the next day when it was light. I had captured it in my little cup and coaster rig and set it on the kitchen table where it would stand out to remind me. But I forgot. I wasn't sufficiently present during the next day to remember. On the following day, when I went back to it, I was horrified to find it had died. It had wiggled its way partly out at the spot where I left a little opening for air, but it didn't make it all the way. No, Kismet. I cried, and I still cry as I write this. It made me so sad to be responsible for that death, to be so absent from the one that I am, who so loves all life. Okay, so anything can be your teacher. It doesn't necessarily mean someone telling you what to do or what is wrong with you in their view. Remember, if lived from heart, from a centered space, all of life can be seen as one big conversation with the divine. But we must see it that way. It will not intrude itself, forcing this angle of vision on us. What that means is that all life, at all times, is talking with you. It takes being really present to hear this conversation. Yet we've had many shamans, yogis, medicine men, and women teaching this very thing down through the centuries and eons. This knowledge is available. It is our birthright, but once again, we must make the right choices, the best use of free will to claim whatever riches there are for us. I suggest being open to life. Allow yourself to be heard. I suggest that life, at its core, has nothing in store for you, has never delivered anything but the best. Yet, we don't often perceive it that way, do we? And so we don't respond to it that way, and so it doesn't turn out that way. We want to point the finger of blame for whatever trauma we've received and disown whatever character shortcomings life might wish us to see. Well, let's just be truthful with that and admit whatever part of it we can. Later, if we go on like this, we'll be able to contain, to absorb more. But whatever works for your now here is all that is ever required. This may be a completely new way, a wholly new angle of view than you've ever considered before. I'm not saying to adopt this perspective at the expense of everything else. Not at all. I am offering you one useful perspective, a lens to look through and enjoy. See what it offers for you. If you find it useful, you may want to plant it as a new belief in your interior garden. It bears truly beautiful flowers year-round. With this one, it's like we all live in California. One thing that's true is that when we take this view of life as benevolent to its core, just as we are source at our core, this makes it far easier to accept, work with, and thus benefit from whatever correction we receive. We can use it to adjust our course, the tack of our sail, as we keep our aim straight into the heart of divine truth. We will grow in excellence and integrity every step of the way, albeit sometime at great cost. Embracing the shadow is so very necessary, my friends. Dimitri Halley is the best exemplar and teacher I have found for this, though of course there are others. Yet, I don't find that most of them have his depth of soul, perhaps haven't yet come as far as he has on the homeward path. He's in process of authoring a book now, so his videos have tapered off, but I'd suggest subbing him anyway at Daniela1771 on YouTube. The link is in the journal. Anything the ego or mind or even the soul wants at first to avoid, to walk away from, to choose not to experience, when you're in a private moment, do have a deeper look into that. Look for it too to speak up with you in your dreams. Those of you blessed enough to remember them. At the very heart and core of simply everything is this awesome, amazing perfection that is source, pure and simple. It radiates. Yet, just as we have, each one of us, for a time, lost our way in the midst of the maze that is 3D, so has society as a whole. So has life. Yet that lostness is only a veneer, a thin covering over the beauty that lies deeper within. And to connect with that deep divine beauty in life and in everyone, everything, everywhere, you do well to go within and connect up with it inside the self first. Not later, not last, but first. Life actually loves us. That will sound crazy to some, but that's okay. Those are generally not the ones found reading or watching my journals, and if they come, they are welcome here. But there's not a whole lot here for those not seeking the truth, their truth. I resonate with those who are, because that's who I am too. Welcoming correction. When we go through our usual day, well, be careful, that's all. Be alert, Be aware. The point is to be fully present in every now here. When we are present in the now here, there is no such thing as a usual day. Well, there may be usual things that are common across our days, but we don't experience them in the old way. My practice is to be in heart at all times, and so that's how my intent is set. Now, that doesn't say I accomplish it always. Who does? We are not expected to accomplish that or anything always. That word always is for higher dimensions, not here in 3D where the one constant is change. So do be gentle with the self, friends. Overall, we are quite harsh and rude with the self. We think we can get away with this rough treatment. We think it's invisible, that no one will know or notice, since it happens largely in our self-talk. But we fool ourselves that way. People know. How do they know? That's easy. What is within also manifests without. However you treat the self is the same way you tend to handle others. Now, it's the only honest way to be if we will just step back and have a good look. When we do this, treat others harshly, we are actually being true to the self, to how we are in that now here. We are being consistent internally and externally. Do you see? If you do, then you also see how your own actions and words are a real clue to your inner state. We all surprise ourselves at times by what comes out of our mouth or our unexpected emotional reaction to something. This is our deeper self showing up, presenting itself for the conscious self to view. If we are open to it, we can learn much just from our own behavior without looking to anyone else. So, if we speak or behave in ways of which the conscious self doesn't approve, taking a deeper, slower look at that could bear fruit. There is a blessing there for us, though most are not likely to perceive it in that way, when the general tendency is to condemn it, to self-criticize. We're good at that, or we were. Self-observation is a powerful tool for our benefit, but of course we have to slow down enough to use it. This isn't something that mind cares to do. Mind in general is not introspective. Well, and that's fine too. Mind is not us, it's just mind. If we find the self to be always in a rush, it's likely that we're letting mind do the driving there. Time to reconsider what's the best way to take this ride. I realize it's quite a stretch for some to view life, overall life, in this benevolent light. Mind wants to chime in and say, what of the Illuminati? What of all those out to harm and control us? That still exists, but you've got to sort it out enough to see that that's what is on the surface of things, the 3D appearance. This way of living goes much deeper than that. And those things can be seen in a new light. So, some might want to at least give it a trial run, to experiment. If you're good at centering, then this should be relatively easy to do. If not, Well, I'd practice heart centering a bit more first, since that angle of view, that perspective is required for this. It is heart vision at work, actually, and I know some can see this. Welcoming correction. A higher self loves this, loves to see it happen, as does your soul, your inner being. As usual, what we're overcoming here is the old, faulty programming that was instilled in us all as children. Right along with this walk, we will be constantly working on our belief garden, pulling up those beliefs that no longer serve us, those that have come to the surface for our view. Whenever I find something that brings me an inner dissonance, an uncomfortable feeling, as in a part of me liking it, but another part wanting to reject it, I like to slow down and take that deeper look. What is acting there? Which aspects of self are at work here? Just sorting that one out generally provides all the guidance needed to take the next step, whatever it is. So this inner dissonance is also my teacher, correcting me, helping me be more true to who I really am. But this only works that way when we are fully present, when we are now here. I've often said that when we find the self ruminating on the past or off into the future with daydreams or fears or whatever, we can be assured we are in mind. Mind always wants to go, 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 never stopping or pausing for long. Well, those are keys to help spot it at work. In general, I find it best to go with what is closest to my core, to higher self, as we discussed with the ladder or spiral at the beginning. Mind and ego are farther from it than is soul. Being in higher self is best, of course, yet we have to be fully heart-centered for that, which is not always the case. So, let's be practical with this and just go with the highest aspect of self that is acting in our now here. Life wouldn't bother to correct you in the absence of real love, the unconditional kind. It's not a far jump from seeing all of life as benevolent to realize that it is also the substance of love. It is love made manifest purely for love's sake, which means for our blessing in all ways. Sometimes those ways hurt, but have you noticed how the things that hurt are often found to bring the greatest blessing in their wake? Maybe that hurt is a part of what it feels like to have old blockages cleared away. I don't know. Let us use our time well then, for I suspect there won't be that much of it left to experience in the old linear way. We are daily migrating into higher self, into the Christ consciousness, each one in whom that is the desire. It's life's desire for us too. What else would love want but the very best possible in all ways, at all times, for each one? In the higher dimensions, time isn't experienced in the way we've grown accustomed to during our human adventures. Not at all. So that becomes more and more available to us even now. We have such awesome delight right in front of us, folks, right ahead of us. It's so amazing, and many of us can feel it coming in. We don't yet know what or how or any of that, but we will. That too is on the horizon for us. So let us take these last steps in 3D joyfully, with strength and the courage of our higher self. We will be so glad that we did. Namaste. And thank you.